Welcome back, everybody, to another Virtual Health Future of Care chat. I'm here again with Marcus Caraballo, our VP of Product, and Huthaifa Khan, our Director of Solutions Architecture. If you've been along for the ride, we've been talking quite a bit about data interoperability, FHIR, some of the needs of payers around how to get their data in the right place at the right time to solve some of healthcare's biggest problems. Just to catch everybody up, Marcus and Khan, can you give a little quick overview of what we've been talking about in the last few in terms of some of the promise and pitfalls of data interoperability as it stands today in our market?
Sure. Yeah. So we've discussed a plethora of issues that plague the interoperability space at the moment. I think to kind of round out some of the really big ones is the speed to value case of interoperability as far as organizations, including payers and providers, and how they get that data in and around their systems in order to see value out of that particular data. I think the patients also have a huge focus on this when it comes to being able to communicate their health information across different providers and different organizations, so they're not having to go through that process each and every time and really repeat themselves. The standardization of the data structures that we use is a big thing within healthcare at the moment. We've touched on the standard that I think most organizations are looking to adopt, which is FHIR, and that leads into probably one of the most vital issues as far as payers and providers go at the moment, which are the CMS regulations that are surrounded by and use the FHIR standard as it is at the moment. And one of the big issues that clients have and organizations have is getting the data from whatever format they have into FHIR in order to really use it within their processes and within their infrastructure. So I would say those are my big points. Marcus, what about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think the S word, right? Standardization, in my view. So obviously FHIR introduces pretty much 80 to 90% of that standardization I think organizations are looking for. But what happens when you have a system that wasn't built on FHIR, right? It was built on a schema that's really proprietary to you, or a schema that maybe accounted for all of your use cases, but doesn't necessarily play nice with FHIR. A lot of the times what we see is, sure, you can have a FHIR server, you can have a store, great, that's kind of step one, but how can we normalize our existing data set or external data sets that don't conform to FHIR seamlessly? So in my view, it's really the pain point I'm seeing is, one, expediting the adoption of FHIR, and two, really streamlining the ability to be compatible with FHIR, right, from external non-FHIR conformant schemas. So I'd say it's really that last mile of standardization that we're looking to help with.
I mean, obviously, we wouldn't be putting all this content together and having all these discussions if we didn't have a strong point of view on the topic. And I think, obviously, we've been hearing a lot from our clients about some of these pain points and how to solve them. So, I'm sure that both of you have some thoughts on this, but how are we jumping into this market? How are we helping to solve some of these pain points that we're hearing from our clients?
Yeah. So again, we're using our deep experience with interoperability. Typically with our customers, right, we have to spin up anywhere from 20 to 30 different pipelines bidirectionally. And now we're introducing a new product to streamline that. So HELIOShub is our interoperability solution that we're going to be bringing to market. It's a hybrid FHIR server and ETL transformation engine optimized for FHIR, right? So you get all of the capabilities that you would expect with the FHIR server as it relates to queries, as it relates to standardized data storage, as it relates to out-of-the-box APIs, right? Web services, pub sub, webhooks, you name it, batch-based feeds, connections, as well as an ability to be able to, whether it be an outbound transaction or inbound transaction, transform that data, pipe delimited, EDI transactions, XML, JSON, you name it, non-FHIR conformant, transform that data into FHIR seamlessly using a tool set that you would expect in, a best-in-class ETL engine.
I'm very excited about this product. It's something that I think has been sorely needed. Having worked quite extensively within the FHIR space now, especially over the past few years, one of the biggest problems that a lot of people tend to have is that they all want to get to FHIR. It's the transformation of getting to FHIR that has been the problem. Now, I've worked with some amazing FHIR servers in the past, but they have all been limited by their ability to provide value to the organizations, because the organizations don't have a easy or simplified way in which to migrate their existing data over to FHIR. And that really is the very core of interoperability. FHIR as a standard is great. It's awesome. And you can have the best, equipped FHIR server in the world. It's of zero use to you if you can't actually get your current data that you have into that format. And it also isn't that much use to you as if you're having to send that same FHIR data out to other people. As the world transitions to FHIR, you can't assume that everyone is also going to be able to ingest FHIR yet. And so as we're going through that transitionary period, there also needs to be a capability to transform FHIR into, proprietary formats that other systems might want to use. So Hub is a very, very unique offer in that particular regard. In most cases, when you're dealing with these kinds of applications in healthcare, you're either getting an interoperability or integration engine, or you're getting a FHIR server. Right. And with my experience, with VirtualHealth experience, with our clients, the gap really is how do you get from one to another, right? You have an interoperability engine. That's awesome. That's great. You can have fun with it, go back and forth. But then you have a FHIR server and you're like, well, I can't use it yet because it doesn't have data in it. And so multiple times working with clients trying to adopt FHIR, the biggest barrier has been the tooling with which their FHIR server can ingest and populate data. And I'm super, super proud of the work that we've done to really bridge that gap. It's not trying to be everything either. We aren't trying to cover the entire interoperability space in one go. We're going to get there eventually. But at the moment, our main focus is being able to provide our clients with very purpose-driven and domain-specific functionality that helps them adopt these standards, as well as create very smooth interoperability profiles without the need for having to invest in multiple points of architecture just to be able to do that.
That's great. I'm excited that we're finally able to talk about it. I know you two have been working on it so hard with the rest of the team, and it really is exciting. I think for those that are thinking about like what makes this different, right? We touched on it a little bit, but can you go a little more in depth on what makes Hub unique relative to some of the other solutions out there? Obviously, we're not the first to this market, but I think we've heard about some very specific use cases that just aren't being met. So how are we fulfilling on those needs for a client?
We really came at this from a very different perspective, right? So, our bread and butter, CM, really, we started from the standpoint of why, what is this data being used for? What's the why? I think a lot of the times when folks are talking about FHIR, it's really more in the weeds of the technical capability, more in the weeds of an API suite, right? I think more around the kind of what and the how. For us, we're doing this for a very specific business purpose, for very specific use cases, and I think it creates a bit of a different perspective in terms of how we're approaching FHIR, because we're not just thinking about, okay, what types of APIs do we support? Oh, these formats have to conform to this very specific aspect of the FHIR implementation. We're thinking, okay, we have 40 different feeds that aren't FHIR. How can we transform each of those feeds, whether it be inbound or outbound, within a couple of days, right? That's our North Star, which is a little bit of a different, I think, perspective on FHIR. So, and also from a workflow standpoint, right? I think a lot of the times folks are pretty API centric as it relates to FHIR, but we know in our world, right, that's not necessarily the case. A lot of organizations haven't adopted a real-time web services based architecture necessarily, or maybe they want to kind of ease themselves into it, kind of dip their feet into it, and they're going to have batch-based processes coming inbound or outbound. They're going to have API-based processes coming inbound or outbound, web services, etc. And maybe they want to be able to easily wean off of some of those batch-based processes, right? So I think common denominator, it's the same way we approach and CM. It's adaptability, right? Especially in healthcare. I think why is healthcare so difficult in my view, you have different requirements across different states, different requirements across different lines of business, and they change, right? So you have this infinite number of permutations that are constantly evolving, depending on regulatory changes, depending on new operational needs that you have, on top of kind of whatever your business outcomes that you're monitoring are. So you have to have a platform that can easily adapt to those changes. And ideally, right, you want to be able to adapt to those changes with minimal kind of expenditure of resources from a capital and people standpoint. So I think the other piece that we're really coming from an ease of use standpoint, which, let's be frank, healthcare really doesn't think about this. It's how can we, ideally allow somebody who maybe they know SQL, right? Maybe they're not a full-blown engineer. How can they build a pipeline within a few days, right? Obviously, our product is going to be primarily used by more technical people, but in scenarios where you have an organization that doesn't necessarily have the capital to expend on those resources, how can we serve them as well, right? And give them the same speed to value that we're giving our technical users. So, no certifications, no crazy, complex, convoluted API documentation that folks don't understand, right? The idea is you get Hub, how can you get up and running with what you need, whether, as kind of expansive as your scope is or minimal as your scope is immediately.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think a good segue too, right? That this is based on real client needs and real client feedback. It's been piloted with real clients, and we have real results to share too. So can we talk a little bit about, the proof of concepts that we've run and what we've seen in terms of productivity? Because I think what you all said it really resonates with what we hear from clients all the time, which is I don't want to invest in all of this high-end software to solve all of my needs, and then also need to pay tons and tons of professional services every time I want to create a new integration, right? So what does the data say about how well we're putting the power in the hands of our clients to manage some of that?
Yeah, so I mean, right now, from what we're seeing across our implementations, we're seeing a 70% reduction from start to finish as it relates to kind of resourcing needs. So, you could think about historically, right? Depends on your organization. We all have different names for these roles, right? But you could have a solutions architect. You might have an engineer, right? You have a product manager, QA person. Across each of those roles, we're seeing each of the phases be dramatically simplified, specifically on the development side, right? So in cases where maybe an integration, to deploy it to prod could take anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks, in some cases longer, right? We're seeing an ability to do that same amount of work, maybe not deploy into prod, but at least from a work completion standpoint within a couple of days, right? And then compressing the actual delivery end to end in a couple of weeks, which, for us, being very dependent on a number of pipelines to get our customers live is a huge, huge efficiency gain. So, ideally, we're like, if this works for us, we think it can dramatically help other folks in the market solve the same needs. And we're actually looking, as Khan mentioned, with the low-code mapper to compress that even more, right? We see tools in the market outside of healthcare like Zapier, right? People build whole businesses on top of these no-code platforms. Why can't we do the same thing in healthcare? There's no reason we can't.
I think obviously you both are really excited about this, and I am as well. I think having a solution that meets the explicit needs of our clients that we've been dealing with for a really long time, right? It's been a pain point on pretty much every implementation that we've had for a really long time, right? It's just a time-consuming process. So it's great to have a solution that really both speeds that process on implementation and then has the ability to put the power in the client's hands if they want it to manage those things, from a lifetime value and speed to market perspective. So that's great. I think, as you said, we're working with organizations who are constantly evolving as regulations change, as the clients, patients, members that they serve change, and as their business models change. So this is, to meet the demands of the future of healthcare, you have to have this level of agility, right? So it's really, I think, going to help our current and future clients in terms of their data management. Is there anything else that the two of you would like to add, or that we didn't talk about in terms of added value for the clients or features and functions that they might want to know about?
I think my parting statement for this is going to be a little bit of a pitch in that regard, but coming from a very personal and experience-driven career, is that the most unique piece of value that Hub really adds, especially in today's very fast-changing technology environment, is that it's not one or the other as far as being an interoperability engine or a FHIR server goes. It really does tie those two pieces of functionality together in a way that matters to our clients, and we believe to many, many others in the healthcare industry. We're doing it in a way where both of those things are tied together. They are together but not married in that sense, that you can use it for much more than just the CM and processes. FHIR allows you to do a lot of different things with it, but for me, again, the unique value proposition of Hub is that you have so much more control about how you transform your data into FHIR and how you can communicate with FHIR or any other format that you're looking to outside of that organization as well, right? You can literally, with the plans that we have in place, you could even use Hub as a backend to a FHIR-driven front-end application, because it serves all of the same APIs and all of the operations that you're expecting out of FHIR. But on the back end, it also gives you all of the tools to shepherd and guide that data into your FHIR store, which again has been a incredible pain point for many, many organizations. And I think this really, really does take some massive strides in how to address it. And finally, we're looking for feedback. It's not just going to be our own individual use cases that we see as clients pick it up, as more of our clients start to use it. We are completely and utterly open to hearing feedback. We plan on making this a absolute best-in-class product for what it's designed for. And we welcome the feedback and the guidance of our customers, because it's a product, right? It's not a unique service. It's a product, and it's something that we want to build and have be useful for everyone who decides to take on the use of Hub in the infrastructure.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm just excited to bring to market something. I think, I get inspired by a lot of products outside of healthcare. So, as it relates to just simple, easy to use, kind of usability and experience. So I'm just excited to bring to market something we think will really simplify a lot of complexity, a lot of pain, right? I like to say product is pain, a lot of pain that we've dealt with over almost a decade at this point. And really just simplify it, make it agile, give our customers an ability really to do what we do with our core platforms, right? Historically, we built a number of configurable rules engines because we had hard-coded capabilities, and we quickly learned that was not the right move, and we adapted. We're doing the same thing for integrations. So, just excited to bring to market a refreshing take on a standard we're very bullish on use cases we know matter. And obviously, I'm excited to just see what types of use cases we don't know about, right? That we're going to be able to facilitate that arise, especially with the advent of AI. So, yeah, excited to share our labor of love with the world, and look forward to chatting with folks, if they're interested.
Thank you both for your time and all your hard work. I'm really excited to help you guys bring this to market. And I think my closing remarks will also be a pitch, which is you can see this right now, right? So we've got video of Marcus and Khan demoing the actual product that you can see on the website. And if your speed to market on integrations and your process leaves little to be desired, then please take a look at HELIOShub and check out how easy that is to use with Marcus and Khan. Thank you both for your time. Congratulations on a successful product launch, and thanks for all your help in putting these videos together.